personal to violence against women. Your police chiefs tell you how dangerous these calls are for the officers. Women tell you that they live with a man because they have no place to go. People who abuse women generally are chronic abusers. So the abuse usually gets worse and worse and worse. And it's not just a few women that go through this. It is hundreds of thousands of women. What this bill essentially does is provide grant funds for shelters. When I was mayor, and I guess it was around 1980 or 81, I helped establish the first shelter in San Francisco for women. There were no federal funds. There was no program. Now there is. Now there is outreach. Now you can get help with stalking. Now protective orders are enforced. Now this applies to virtually everyone in this bill, whether you're gay or straight, whether you're Caucasian or Indian, whatever you are, you have access to these services. It is really important for millions of American women all across this country. As Senator Murray said, we now have 61 votes in the Senate. There are Republicans that support this bill as well as Democrats. It is very important that it not be made political fodder, but that men and women in this body recognize once and for all that we have a big problem out there in our human relationships. And these grant programs save lives, they protect women, and I think the statistics have demonstrated that. So my view is, let's get down to it and let's get it passed and reauthorized. I'd also like to thank the chairman of my committee, Senator Leahy. This is his bill. He's done yeoman service to move it through the committee. It came out of judiciary on a partisan basis, and that is regretful. I hope that will not be the case on the floor. I don't believe it will, and I think we just need to take this vote as soon as possible. Governor Shaheen.
Thank you, Senator Feinstein and Senator Murray. I'm really glad to be able to be here today to add my voice to the cry that we should get this bill to the floor and get it passed. As both Senators Feinstein and Murray have said very eloquently, this is legislation that has historically had strong bipartisan support. The bill that is before us in the Senate now has strong bipartisan support. I wanted to report to you a visit that I had on last Friday to Nashua, New Hampshire, which is the second largest city in my state. I visited a program called the Bridges Program, which deals with domestic violence and sexual assault. And as part of our discussion, we had the Republican mayor of the city of Nashua, who is a strong supporter of reauthorization. We had the police chief in the city, who was also a strong supporter. And then we had folks who represent the State Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, and of course, representatives from the Bridges Program. And one of the things they talked about is how they're able to leverage the very small amount of money that they get from the Violence Against Women Act, that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else, to do things like outreach in the minority community. $20,000 allows them to have a person on board who can do outreach in the minority community where they would not be able to respond without that person. The police chief in Nashua talked about getting $68,000 through the Violence Against Women Act. Small sums of money that allow them to have a unit within the police department who can respond to domestic violence cases and respond to sexual assault. They talked about the incidents going up. They're going to the hospitals in that city 2 and 3 times a week to respond to victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. And then I talked to a survivor of domestic violence who was there. And I'm not going to use her name, obviously. But one of the things she talked about is the fact that she said, you know, when you're a victim of domestic violence, you think you're worthless. She said, and there were so many times when I would have gone back to my abuser, but I knew that I could call the Bridges Program 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they're open, because of the Violence Against Women Act and the support they have. I could call somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've done that. And they could help me, get me through those difficult times. And because of that program, this woman is now on her way. She's going back to college. She's figured out her personal situation, and she's going to be a saved life because of the programs that are sponsored by the Violence Against Women Act. We don't have time to have these fights. This is something that's supported across party lines. We need to get to it now and not let the outliers keep us from getting this serious work done that the Senate and the Congress needs to get done on this issue. So thank you all very much.